We now move on to our panel speakers. Our first speaker is Dr. Ramaswami Balasubramaniam. Dr. Balasubramaniam is a development scholar, author, public policy advocate, leadership trainer, and activist known for his pioneering development work with rural and tribal people in Saragur near Mysore, Karnataka. He founded Swami Vivekananda Youth Movement, a development organization based in Saragur when he was 19. After spending 26 years in development work among rural and tribal people, he pursued academic degrees in leadership, organizational development, and public policy. He was the Frank H.T. Rhodes Professor at Cornell University between 2012 and 14 and continues to hold academic positions in other universities. His book, I, The Citizen, is a compilation of narratives and reflections of a development activist and was released in 2015 by the Prime Minister's office. He is also the chairman of Grassroots Research and Advocacy Movement at Vivekananda Institute for Leadership Development, Mysore. His qualifications include MPhil in Hospital and Health Systems Management at Birla Institute of Technology and Sciences and Masters in Public Administration at John F. Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University. Sir, it's a privilege to have you here.
Before the panel discussion started, they wanted to know if we'll make PowerPoint presentations. I must confess, watching all the PowerPoints from morning, I would have been exposed as completely ignorant. And second disclosure is I hate PowerPoints. Hopefully I'll leave you behind with a powerful point. While concluding the presentation, Snail, I think if I got the name right, said the panelists will possibly throw more light on the solutions. I am an activist. We actually throw light on problems. Well, I also try to find some solutions, and I have worked a lot and being part of the original group of activists who campaigned for RTE maybe 15, 16 years ago. Am I satisfied? I think we activists have a problem. We ask the two particular acts which I've been personally involved and engaged in, and both the acts we actually got it from the government, and sometimes you don't know what to do when you get it. One was the Forest Rights Act. Having lived with tribals in the forest for 25 years, been a strong campaigner of forest rights, we asked for the stars and we actually got the stars. We thought we'll land up on the moon, but we actually got the stars. And today, if you have one act which is very impractical to deploy on the ground, it's the Forest Rights Act. We are struggling to really convince the state from interpreting the act the way we look at it. And I would see right to education in a similar line. And even many of us possibly were blindsided by our passion. So much so that we overlooked a lot of implementational challenges. I'll give a small example and then move on to what I want to say. Economically weaker section. I get provoked when you use that word. I think it's an absolutely rubbish word because the state decides who is economically weak. And in Karnataka, when we got the RTE was introduced, they said 1 lakh and below is economically weak. And within a year, they said 3.5 lakh and below is economically weak. And what happened was, I run 2 schools myself. And the maximum number of applications we get are from government servants who actually know, and so it's not 29% in Karnataka, it's pretty high. And if you see who are the people getting into the system in the private schools, it is actually a lot of, because my schools are in rural areas, the Tahsildar's son, the sub-inspector's son or somebody else whose salaries are shown less than 3.5 lakhs, and so they can get into the system. So the real tribal or the real poor are still marginalized. So, while this act is a great powerful tool for bringing in equity, I don't think equity should be measured just by economic standards alone. And what I would like to stress on and where I would like to see innovation, and I'll just share a couple of my innovations that I have done, is on this hierarchical model of education this country has been prescribing, where we decide that we know what education is and this is what you should take and you live with it. And so we actually determine what everybody should get, and this mass upscaling of homogenized educational patterns across this country, I think we have destroyed what is fundamentally embedded as community knowledge and wisdom. Now, I'll start off with an extraordinary example that gave me a lot of learning. A very young child, I work with 5 different anthropological tribal groups, and one child is from a Jainukurba community. Jainukurbas are considered the most primitive, and the government again gives them nice tags. They call them PVTGs, primitive and vulnerable tribal groups. Vulnerable to government onslaughts is what I keep saying. And I live in an area where 4 reservoirs are built. 1/3 the land is declared national park, and these tribals are mercilessly thrown out of the forest in the name of development. So I'm giving this context for you to understand what development means to these people. And in that context, when I went in, and this child was 6 years old when he first came to me, and I run a residential school, and the joke around was children don't come for the slate, it's irrelevant to them, they used to come for the plate. And so it was the meal which was keeping the school going. And one day in school, even before the RTE came, we were doing a lot of this stuff, and so this child was missing. This Raja was his name. This Jenukurba child was missing, and when a child is missing in the border of a national park, you worry because Jenukurbas actually fear nothing. They don't even care about anything. So these kids would just walk through the forest. It was a Project Tiger area. So they simply walk through and go home. They don't like the school, they go home. And so all of us were convinced this child has gone home. And the whole school is searching. And government is a very funny missionary. They give me awards when everything is going right. And you screw up once, they'll throw you in jail. So I've been there too. So I've been, both ends of the spectrum I've been. So I know how it works. So we're all nervous and this child is missing and the headmistress is panicking, and unfortunately for all of them, I was in the school on that day. So all the more nervous and tense around, Raja missing, and nobody found him anywhere. And how did they discover he was not there is because we knew that we actually take attendance not in the classrooms, because we really don't believe in it, because we don't call our classrooms classrooms. Our school, there's no curriculum at all, there is no textbook till the 7th grade, and so the children and the parents sit together, and the teachers, and design what the child will learn that year. So, because I strongly believe that there's so much of education embedded in communities, and if you can't get that back into the classroom, that's no education at all. And so we actually create content year on year. And from the 8th, we get into the regular government syllabuses that we have to do, because 10th standard you need a certification. And so this child was missing, and so everybody's looking around. Attendance is taken only during lunchtime, only to make sure every child gets his lunch, because the lunch was 75% of their daily meal, and so we want every child to eat. And the child was missing, they discovered it, and everybody is searching and panicking, and then finally the headmistress came running to me relieved and said, we found Appiraj in celebration time. And then we realized, where was he? In our school, we used to cook on steam. The steam generator was outside the kitchen because it was fired by firewood, and so you didn't want the kitchen to get covered in soot, so it was outside. This child was sleeping beside the steam generator. Nice warm little place. It was a monsoon season, so it was nice to sleep. And everybody woke up Appiraja, and because I was standing, they couldn't beat him also, because the teachers were tempted, I'm sure. And Appiraja was shaken up, and I asked him, Appiraja, why are you sleeping? The child's answer was so innocent. He said, I felt sleepy, I slept. So what big deal are you guys creating here? And then I asked, but you didn't come for lunch, did you have your lunch? He said, I ate. And the beauty of traditional tribal India, and I still subscribe to that even today, is they don't lie. They don't see a point in lying. And when Appiraj said he had his lunch, he had his lunch. But for us, we are wired to believe we are the only ones who provide lunch. So if he's had his lunch and not been there in the dining hall, then he's lying. So immediately the principal flared up and said, no, you're lying, you didn't come for lunch. But Appiraja looked at me and said, but I ate. And again, fascinating story, we didn't know what to do. And then we asked Appiraja, I asked him, Appiraja, a 6-year-old boy, who had been in a school before. Construction was happening on campus, so there's a lot of iron lying around. So this child builds a small, I don't know what to call it even, a trap, which can trap birds. He knows which tree will bring out what kind of a resin, uses that gum, traps a small little bird, steals a piece of ginger, onion and chili from the kitchen the previous day, makes it a nice paste, defrosts the bird, puts the rod through it, applies the paste, barbecues, eats it and goes to sleep. And the school is shocked because I am giving them vegetarian food. And this child, I asked him, why Appiraja, what did you do? And he looked at me and said, what sir, 1 month I've been here. Every day in Kannada, I should say, very sopsaru, only greens and sambar. Where I was earning for this, I decided to get it myself. And then I asked him, but then isn't it wrong? Look at this, built a trap, kept it on a tree and knows exactly what size bird will come to the tree. That's important. If a bigger bird comes in, it will not hold the trap will not hold the bigger bird. If too small a bird comes in, it's not going to fill his stomach. And he has to apply the right amount of resin. He knew all this knowledge. And then I pretended to be angry. I was actually amused and thrilled. But I had to show anger because my teacher shouldn't get the wrong lessons. So, and when I was telling him, but then how could you do that? You didn't come to class. And the question Appiraja asked me, I think shaped my concept of education. He said, what class, sir? After 10 years of studying here, what else will you teach? Finally, you teach me the same thing, right? How to find food for my stomach. And actually, look at this loaded question. I'm sure from morning I've been meeting a lot of your friends here and asking them, what is the return on investment on 27 lakhs in IIM Ahmedabad? Why are you here? What do you go out and do? Like, let's be very honest and frank. We measure our lives by the bottom lines that you are going to generate or going to generate for yourself or for your companies. The whole existence is being measured by metrics which are sadly unidimensional. And Apiraja's question was brilliant. A 6-year-old tells me, okay, after 10 years of schooling in your school, what am I going to learn other than just feeding my stomach? And I already know that myself. So what is it that we teach in our schools? What is RTE actually, what are we trying to give it as a right? Do we give learning as a right? Or are we giving schooling as a right? I think these are very fundamental questions we need to ask. Do we really create learning ecosystems in schools where we can actually learn? In my school, we don't call anybody a teacher because I feel you fundamentally can't teach anybody. You can only create learning environments in which all of us can learn. And we learn from each other. We always learn from each other. And if we can't find, there are no doors and windows in my school. There are no rules. The children can jump out when they want and they jump in when they want. So I keep telling my learning facilitators, that's what we call them, if you are not competent to keep learning engaged enough, then there's something wrong with you, not with the child. The child is supposed to run out. Imagine a child who has lived in a forest all along, you suddenly put him into a classroom like this. My God, it is the worst torture you can create for him. So what does right actually mean? Does right just mean the standard structured curricular content that we deliver to our children across the country, or something more deeper and significant? I would leave you with that fundamental question to ask and look at it. So it's not just 25% in private schools or public schools. The fundamental definitions of education needs to be gone deeper. So to me, I come from the background where I see development itself as different. Initially in my days, when I started this work, I thought development is all about the hospitals I built, the schools I constructed, the roads we fought for, the tube wells we got, rural economies and looking at clusters of economy and all the nice languages we development economists use. But then I realized that's not development. Today I believe development is possibly a constant expansion of human and social capital. And if you can do this all the time, they're going to have powerful economic consequences. Unfortunately, we live at times where economic growth is what is measured and valued. We celebrate 8% growth, but we don't look at other things in this country. From morning, I've been watching so many divides, the digital divide and the experience divide. You know, we can actually write a dictionary for development now. So there's so many words, fanciful terms we all like and we use. And I was thinking about that little Apiraja in that village. Look at that experience. Actually, experience divide is reverse. You can never experience the joy that Apiraja experienced that day. You can never experience the knowledge that he's already got. The enormous wisdom embedded in traditional tribal communities is so much. And with this mindless onslaught of mainstream education, we're losing all that. Now, to me, one innovation that we're trying is, how do I embed our school in the community? And how do I embed the community in the school? And can it be done? It can actually be done. The proof of the pudding is you must visit me and see it. We have community elders who come and teach. I run a teaching school also, teaching education school also, where teachers are trained and then they're trained for rural India, where children actually take the classroom to the tribal colonies. And how do they actually understand learning? Our teachers, by mandate of the institution, have to spend 1 week of their holidays living in the huts of the tribals like the tribe. They are only dropped by us, they are not given a single rupee, and they're 40-50 kilometers away from the school and they have to come back when the school reopens. How they come back is their problem. Now, if they can't understand and live the life of a tribal child, amid all the challenges of the forest department, the police department, and every department that threatens their existence, how can you even teach that child? How can you even understand what learning can be in the context in which the child comes from? So can we do this? And it can be done. So I believe equity is not just measured from a financial plane. Equity from an understanding of knowledge, and it can work the reverse way. There's so much of knowledge on the other side. Can we tap into it and bring it into the classroom? Can we actually document? The traditional medicinal knowledge, the children went on a small little campaign 6 months ago, and these are children of the next generation of people who are already outside the forest. when talking to their parents and asking what are the traditional herbs they use. With all my knowledge, 20 years ago I documented, I could pick 28 herbs. That's what modern education taught me. And these kids from 6th to 8th grade, for 3 months they went around their different tribal colonies. We have actually documented, got the botanists to certify, we sent herbs to FRLST labs in Bangalore, got the active ingredients analyzed, 571 different kinds of herbs. Now this is knowledge already embedded in the community, and what botany are you teaching to these kids? So like Mark Twain said, sometimes we must make sure schooling doesn't interfere with education. And that is one model, it works in one context. So I believe education must be contextually relevant and culturally appropriate. And if we can assure that, that is respecting the right of a child. Otherwise, it's just a right that the constitution might prescribe, but we don't really understand the child. So when you talk of child rights, I think a child has got a right to understand learning from the context in which it grows up. And whether you and I like it or not, education finally is for employment, the way we construct it. Every one of us want a job finally. And so we operate in different dimensions. The second program that I would like to just share and quickly stop after that is we understand government schools are what they are. Teachers are a problem. In rural Karnataka, you cannot get teachers. 94% of children studying in Karnataka, in rural areas, go to government schools. Now, if you do not impact the performance of government schools, whatever innovations you talk about, you are not going to impact the quality of educational learning outcomes in Karnataka state. So what do? We realize if we don't work with government, you make no difference, and you can't keep criticizing the government. I used to do that a lot. Now we understand, we NGOs have this arrogance and we believe we can actually supplement the government. I think it's a stupid idea. At best, we can only supplant the state. And we better, collaborative advocacy actually works better than confrontational advocacy. So if you read my book, I've done both. So I know what it is. Now, going to jail is confrontational advocacy. Not that I'm afraid of going to jail, but it doesn't pay off. It gives you nice newspaper headlines. But beyond that, it doesn't get the people anything. So if we really want change, I think collaborative advocacy is better. And what do? Today we work in close to 3,000 government schools by mandate of an MOU with the state of Karnataka. We work with children and we are very clear. We only want to work in the model that the government subscribes to. So we are not even trying to transpose a model that, because you can't really create my school, it's an oasis. You can't create that in 300 schools of government or 3,000 schools of government. What we do is we take the government curriculum, the government syllabus, the quality of government teachers, and say, can we enhance performance in these schools of children? If we can do that, that is change. And so what have we done? We have deployed technology to extraordinary advantage. Till 6 months ago, the technology we were using was to develop our own content. We did our surveys and realized the reason why rural children can't compete with urban counterparts are they're weak in science, English and maths. And government schools don't have enough teachers to teach them. So instead of looking at for the teacher who's never going to come, we said, what are we focusing on? Are we going to focus on the teachers or are we going to focus on the child learning? When you change the paradigm, the question itself saying, is the child learning that is important or the teacher being in school that is important? We decided that we're going to find a solution for the child learning math, science and English. And how do you make it happen? So we generated material, the best of teachers to generate our own DVDs. We had a large project across Karnataka. We distributed these DVDs to government. And a class, it is all driven by the curriculum. Like I said, we were simply following the government system. Every lesson, in every subject, every child in the school, rigorously monitored on basis, with information coming into central servers of every child's performance, the standardized testing done deployed by our system, measured and remedied done for the child. From percentages as low as 40%, today our children are scoring 96 to 98% when they come to the 10th grade. It shows rural children can actually learn. Can we create the ecosystem of learning for them? So we become ambitious now. So we moved away from the DVD worlds and we're actually, as we get donors, we're expanding this program, pushing a tablet of every rural child that we can lay our hands on, and we push content from Bangalore. And the content is tailored to the child. And if a child is not doing well in algebra in 8th grade, that child alone we know is not doing well in algebra. He might be doing well in English. Why are you calling him a poor child? And other children in his class who are doing well in algebra, through peer learning, make sure that this child also understands algebra better. So all the learning is peer driven. It's only facilitator monitored. but performance is measured individually, learning is encouraged on a peer basis, and the results are fascinating. So innovation and technology, so digital India to me means, can we actually deploy the gains to this kind of benefits where the cost per child is insignificant. This morning I was hearing Mr. Sharma speak and said it's less than 1 rupee for verifying the Aadhaar system. Well, that's extraordinary. It's a brilliant thing to work. But can we actually, many of you may not even be aware that the cost of educating a child in Bangalore City Corporation is so stupid. The City Corporation of Bangalore, which we call BBMP, runs its own schools with no specialized skills in education. The education department has got nothing to do with them. They run their own schools, they run their own hospitals. It costs 26,000 rupees per child to teach in a government school. Now, if they can just give it a cash voucher and ask him to go to private school, he may possibly get better education. And no question, they didn't even know this cost till we actually costed it for them. So we are actually spending much more per child per year for achievement levels which are insignificant. So before I conclude, I just want to say, innovation doesn't have to be extraordinary breakthroughs that we have. RTE itself is a great innovation, and implementing it, possibly we may have to redefine what does a right mean, what does education mean, is it just simple schooling or is it something else, and are there lessons that are embedded in communities that we can learn from and put them together and have a model. So isn't a child doesn't it have a right to learn what its ancestors would be willing to teach it? Without romanticizing that, I would like to conclude.